Hi there, this is Fiona from Shoalhaven Regional Gallery. Today we're going to spend a bit of time in my studio and have a look at a surface to work on. And this surface today is plywood. I like working with plywood. It's inexpensive and also readily available at your hardware shops. The top piece here is from a plank of wood. You'll notice the curves, and the other two are different depths of plywood. The basic rule, more layers equals a stronger surface. Something to consider if your project is large. Coloured pencils are a great medium to use with plywood. As you're working, you'll find that the surface really grabs hold of the medium and it leaves a really beautiful transparency through to the wood grain. The main difference you'll find when working with watercolour or gouache is that watercolour is very transparent and gouache is opaque. Both mediums are almost identical in makeup, pigment and water-soluble binder. Gouache has a white pigment or chalk added, which makes it less transparent than watercolours. Working with ink on your ply will give you some really vivid, lush colours. And once that's dry, you'll be able to add detail and shadow using waterproof or felt tip pens. Plywood is quite soft and lends itself well to carving. It is important to consider sealing your plywood on both surfaces, front and back. This helps to avoid warping. I applied a couple of coats of gesso after sealing the ply for this work. This created a smoother surface to work on. I loved working on ply with oils. It felt like the board pushed back. I was able to use stronger and looser brush strokes. I find plywood a really versatile surface. There is a couple of things you need to think about before you use it though. One of the things is if you're going to use a medium on it, which is quite wet, you've got to be a little bit cautious about how thick your ply is, because it very easily can warp, especially if you're adding a watery base to it, because that will break down the binder that glues all the pieces of wood together. Now I'm going to show you now how I respond to plywood. One of the things I really love about working on plywood is the way that some of these grains and things capture the pigment that you're working with. And it's really nice to fall into that zone where you're actually responding to the surface rather than trying to control it. Okay, you can see I've started to add some paint, some watercolour with a touch of white gouache. At the moment, all I'm doing is just picking little areas where I can see changes in the tone of the wood and applying my watercolour. Now, because I haven't sealed it, it's sucking in very quickly and it will dry a little bit softer. Bearing in mind I don't want to add too much water, so I'm trying to work a little bit more with the pigment of the watercolour paint rather than relying on the water. If you're using paper, you sort of tend to do lighter washes and then build up. One day in my studio, I just picked up a piece of ply that I had lying around and started applying some watercolour and gouache just to get the feel of it. And I found I really liked it because the surface takes the medium very quickly and it's a little bit in charge, but once you slow down into your layers and brush strokes, you start to respond to your surface rather than trying to control it. A quick study of an expressive landscape informed entirely by the surface I was working on. I hope you enjoy exploring plywood. Thanks for watching.